Hi everybody and welcome back to Content Creation Station. My name is Karen and in my videos here I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about creating beautiful professional looking content, about building your social media following and about really elevating your brand. Today's video is about a topic that's close to my heart. So for those of you who don't know me, I first started blogging back in 2010. 12 years ago, and over those 12 years I have gotten the chance to work with some of my all-time favorite brands, pinch me brands that I've loved for years and that have approached me to work together. And over those 12 years and with all the different collaborations that I've done, I've learned so much about the process. And so now when I'm working with brands, it's a lot more streamlined. If you're watching this video, chances are you're looking for information on how to work with influencers. So I have 5 tips that's going to make life so much easier for you. The first question that you need to ask yourself when it comes to any influencer campaign is, what are your goals? Do you want brand awareness? Do you want sales? Do you want traffic to your website? Not all influencers are created equally. You could have an influencer that has like over 100,000 followers but who doesn't generate sales. So if sales is your goal and you automatically reach out to somebody who you think has a really large following, it doesn't mean that it's going to translate into sales. In saying that, that same influencer might be brilliant at driving traffic to your website or to your Instagram page and could be a brilliant person to work with if you're looking to build your following. Locking down and defining your goals like that will really help with the next step, and that is picking the influencer to work with. This is where your research comes in. So if you're not already following them, follow them. You might have influencers that are just on Instagram. You might have those that are also on TikTok, on YouTube, that have blogs. Follow them everywhere so that you can get a good sense of what their content is like and how it might change over the different platforms. Chances are if you are thinking about that influencer already, you're already following them. You have to figure out now, are they going to be a good fit for your brand? Do they have the same values? Do you trust them and does their audience trust them? This is where you're going to find out as well if they have an engaged audience. Now it is harder for those influencers who, let's say, are on Instagram and who mainly post stories and not necessarily to their feed. If they're posting to their feed either in grid posts or carousels or reels, you can kind of get more of a feel as to the audience engagement. In stories you have no access to that, so you have to trust them if you do reach out to them to provide the figures for that. Researching will take a while, but it is a vital step because you don't want to get the wrong influencer. Check back over their page to see, have they worked with brands that are similar to yours? If so, how did that collaboration go? What was the content like? Was it high quality? Did they get a lot of comments? Did they get a lot of views? This part is crucial. It's at this point as well that you can reach out to them and ask for their media kit or their rates. If they have one, they'll send it to you and then you'll be able to see a breakdown of their audience. Because you might have somebody in mind who you think, oh, that'll be a good one to have for the campaign. But then when you look at their audience breakdown, their audience demographics, it doesn't align with you, with your brand, with who you want to target. So what you don't want to have happen is to have somebody who's based in Ireland, for example, but their audience is mainly in the UK or in the US. It'll just be a waste of money and then you won't reach the goals that you've set. The moral of the story is to do your research. And then we get on to the next step, and that is approaching the influencer. If the influencer has an agent, you can approach them directly. If not, I would totally recommend sending them an email. To me personally, sending DMs on Instagram, it might be grand for reaching out to get their email address, but sending emails and trying to have a conversation back and forth on DMs, it just gets messy. DMs get lost. If you are going to reach out to them via DM, just ask them what their best email address is and contact them there. It means that everything will be in an email thread. And trust me, it's just so much easier that way and it's more professional too. It's worth noting as well that for me personally, if I don't follow a brand, their messages won't go into my primary folder, it will go into the requested folder. I tend not to go near that, just it's a boundary that I've set, and a lot of times the DMs can go missing. So emails. So let's say you're emailing the influencer. Here's where you would give them a bit of information, a bit of background on your brand, on the products that are part of the campaign. You can give a little bit of information here about the campaign, what's involved, and then ask for their costs. Like you can ask for their general costs, or if you have a specific campaign in mind. So let's say you want to have 2 sets of stories from the influencer, a reel and a grid post. You can ask for a breakdown of their fees for those specific deliverables. Or you can just ask generally, what are your fees? They'll send it back saying, this is my fee for a set of stories, however the minimum amount of frames are, for a reel, for a giveaway, for competition. And here's where you're going to hone down what's really involved in the campaign. If in the research part you haven't reached out to them about their audience breakdown, their demographic, this is when you can do that now, just to make sure that your target audience matches their audience. If they send over the stats, you'll be able to see the breakdown of their audience, the ages, where they're from. If they have any stats from previous collaborations, they can send those over as well. And if you're watching this as an influencer, don't be afraid to send over your stats. That's your calling card, that's your CV, that's your proof that this is what I can achieve. But I can go through that in another video. There's no need to keep your numbers secret. be proud of them. The next step is the negotiation process. This can go back and forth, and if you're dealing with somebody's agent, this just adds an extra step onto the process, and it can kind of slow things down a little bit. So if you know that you have a campaign that's going to go live in like 2 or 3 months, make sure all of this part is done earlier. It just makes life so much easier. Please trust me. This part can take time. In the negotiation process, this is where you're really going to lock down what exactly the deliverables are. So the deliverables are what content the influencer is going to produce. So whether it's going to be stories or reels or IGTV or takeover. It's also the time that you need to discuss any exclusivity. Let's say you are a candle company, for example, and you're approaching an influencer. Having an exclusivity clause for the period of that collaboration means that the influencer can only talk about your brand and your product over that time. They're not allowed to talk about any other competitors at all. And it's worth noting that this can add extra costs on as well, but it's an important process as well. So then we get on to the nitty gritty. So we have an agreement and a brief. An agreement is usually a document where it will list out exactly what the deliverables are, the dates are, and that you have agreed to the terms and the conditions, that you have agreed to provide those deliverables when you say you will. It's like a contract. Then we have the brief. I think the brief is one of the most important parts of this whole process because this makes life so much easier for everybody. The brief should contain information about the products itself. So it could be like the pricing, it could be the full name. Again, it will list out the deliverables. So what exactly is coming from the influencer for the campaign, be it the stories, the IGTV, etc. It should also list out the dates. If you want the influencer to film the content and edit it and send it to you for approval, include those dates in it, because it means then if there are any amendments, it gives the influencer time to do any edits. Along with the approval dates, you'll also have the dates that the deliverables will go live. So each piece of content will go live on a certain date. It means that you know when they're going live, the influencer knows when they're going live, and it just means everything is laid out in black and white. I love having a really detailed brief because it means that if I'm unsure about anything, I can just go back and it's all in one document, because a lot of the times, like, there are a lot of emails going back and forth. It can be kind of messy going through them all, trying to find out, now what did I say I would do here? What is the date for this? So if you have everything in the brief document, it just makes life so much easier. You have your key messaging, you have info about the products, you have the approval dates, you have the dates that the products are going to go live. In the brief as well, include any hashtags that you want used. So make sure that your brand's tag, your Instagram handle, is on the brief along with any hashtags, and then also make sure to include any ASAI hashtags. So that is everything that the influencer will need to disclose, because I'm going to talk about disclosure and transparency in another video, because there are guidelines that both sides have to follow, and if an influencer is reported and named in the ASAI bulletin, so too will the brands. Any new influencers that are out there might not know about what hashtags they should be using to disclose. So if you have it listed in the brief, it means that they have something to refer back to. If you are working with a new enough influencer that hasn't maybe worked with too many different brands in the past, it might be a good shout to ask for the content for approval. You can ask for the hashtags and everything to be included in the approval process so that they can film the content, upload it to Instagram, add all the hashtags and everything, save it down, and then send it to you. It will mean that when they go to upload it again, that they'll have to manually add in the hashtags to make sure that everything is clickable as well. Bit messy, but it's worth it in the end in terms of disclosure. It's worth noting that while you might have the key messaging sorted, locked and loaded, that you don't want to tell the influencer what to say. It's so important to give them creative control, because if you've reached out to them, it's because you like their content, it's because you like their tone of voice, that you think it matches with your brand and what you're all about. If you give them like a paragraph and a script that you want them to say, it will not translate. Their audience will smell it a mile away. They'll know that they've been told what to say, and I know that we have probably all seen captions that have been given and copied and pasted from a document like a brief into their Instagram caption, and it's just like, creative control will just lead to a more authentic partnership. The key messaging should be enough for the influencer to either create the caption, tell the story on stories, film the reel. If they do have any questions, if you add a point of contact onto the brief as well, be it the top or the bottom, they know who to contact easily if they do have any questions about the content itself. Also on the brief, it's worth putting in the dates that you want the report back. So for every collaboration that I do, usually it's a week after, I'll send over a report and it will have all the screenshots, the stats, everything for the different pieces of content that I've uploaded. For example, if I've uploaded 10 stories, I will send over 10 screenshots with the reach, with any interaction, any likes, comments, follows, taps on the tags. I always put those together in a Word document, send it over. It just means as well that you can see the influencer's report, match it with your own report, and see what worked, see what didn't. If you're new to working with influencers, it can be a bit daunting because there is a lot to figure out, a lot to take in. It can be a bit of trial and error when it comes to working with influencers, but if you do your research from the get-go, if you get all the information locked down, if you trust who you're working with, if you know that they have a good track record, then you should be good to go. I hope I haven't bombarded you with too much information, but if you've any questions about the whole process, just leave me a comment below and I will do my best to help you out. Thanks a million for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.